Oh my gosh. What are the electronics telling us? Are the electronics indeed telling us that livery has happened? I believe it has. I believe you're here. We're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Glad you're here. Glad you're hanging out with us tonight. Hope you are doing awesome. Tonight we are going to be doing lots and lots of Q&A because last week, I talked and talked forever. And so this week, I think it's appropriate that we have more time for you. That's right.
More question time. Yay.
More question time for you. And so, yeah, before we get into said question time, a few things what's going on this week, or what went on this week. So, Sunday, what did I do? I did a video was Sunday the silver tip tetra video? Species profile? Yes. I think it was, yeah. So this is a fish we've been keeping in the fish room for a while, and it's pretty awesome because we have a big group of them. And one of the things I was talking about in one of the members' videos is fish in big groups tend to act differently than fish in smaller groups. And I think the silver tip tetra really kind of illustrates that. And when you get a large group of them in a tank, they are quite awesome. And the males and females have a slightly different color, which kind of makes it almost look like they're two different fish, but they're not. So if you want to see a really cool fish, check out Sunday's video on the silver tip tetra. Today, what did you do?
I did a tour of a super awesome, totally cool soulmate of a fish shop. I was in love when I saw it. Spoke to me.
Yeah, so
check out my fish soul.
Check out the small scape, and you can see all about what she's talking about. Because last Thursday we were in St. Louis at the Missouri Aquarium Society, and big thank you to everybody there who hosted us and showed us around and spent time with us. And we did some really cool fish room tours, one of which is going to be coming out on Sunday, and I am ridiculously excited about it because I think it's one of the best fish room tours that I've done, at least some of the tanks that I'm going to be featuring in that video on Sunday. I really do. I think they're some of the best ones that I've seen in a fish room tour. So I'm really excited about that. We did some fish stores. So we've got a bunch of stuff that came out as a result of our trip. And again, thank you to all the people who were there. I mean, it was a wonderful crowd. Very excited to meet some of you and talk with you because that's why we travel to the places we do, is to hang out with you, see what's going on in the fish hobby with you. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and everybody
was great.
And everybody who gave us a tour.
Yeah.
To said stores and
Absolutely.
Houses,
yep.
etc.
Yeah, I mean it was a lot of fun. So today you did a video on one of the fish stores that we took a look at, and I'll actually be doing some shorts that are be coming out in the next week or two. Same store where we get to see a little bit more of the fish and some of the things that they have there. So tomorrow we'll have the members video. I know I didn't do that last week. I'm sorry, but like I said, we were in Missouri, so it was kind of hard to do that. And then let's see. I already mentioned Sunday. Sunday is going to be the awesome fish room tour. I know you're going to like it. There's some really cool stuff there. So that's this week in videos. Does anybody remember This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen? I was so excited when you got me that. Joanna got me, I don't know, it's like a birthday or Christmas or whatever, but you got me a DVD set of This Week in Baseball, like from back in the 80s. If you were a baseball fan back in the 80s and you were a kid, there was nothing better than waking up, I think it was on a Saturday late morning, This Week in Baseball. How about that? Yeah.
Was it after the Smurfs?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Was it after Soul Train? Because Soul Train was kind of at the end of Saturday morning. And then it switched to things that I didn't care about, which were murder mysteries and, Sherlock Holmes and Charlie Chan. And then, which I later became addicted to, and cooking shows.
How about that? Yeah, so that was a great show. And I don't remember why that even bothered to come up. Oh, places we're going to be in the next, what is this, the end of April? So nowhere the rest of the month. But next month, we've got a couple things coming up. And we all know, at least most of us know, Aqua Shella it's coming up pretty fast. Right? So around the May 20th,
Yeah.
I think that's, that weekend, May 20th. Looking forward to that. We've got all the plans, or almost all the plans done. I still have to figure out a couple things for that trip, but going to be there. It's going to be cool. We had more information about the booth and the layout, and like I said last week, it's going to be different. It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to add. Traditionally, the YouTube booth has been, a lot of creators, some tables, some places to talk. Well, we're still going to have that, but I think it's going to have more visual appeal.
Sweet.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. More things for people who are there when they walk into, I think it's now called what is it called now? It's not called the Fish Tube booth or anything like that. The media center, maybe? I don't remember.
Snappy.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's not it, but it's something like that. And there's going to be more to see. I think you're going to like it. So if you've been to an Aqua Shella and you're like, oh, I remember what that's all about, things change. So, and that's going to be cool. And then the weekend after that, which is the 27th of May, we'll have the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap. And we just got a bunch of fish in for that. So some things we haven't had in a long time. Some things have we ever had? Maybe not. And a whole lot of things people want that we can't seem to keep in stock. And so that's what I'm excited about. A lot of people ask about certain fish, like, oh, you ran out already? Yeah, but this time we went a little bit crazier to try to bring in more of the things people love.
Oh, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
What's up?
She says, I remember that this week in baseball came on after cartoons on Saturday mornings. I watched weekend specials. Was it on after that? Weekend specials?
I don't remember that show, but I do remember I'm pretty sure it was after cartoons.
You remember Schoolhouse Rock?
I do, but I never watched it. I didn't watch it. Sorry.
The bill that goes up the hill and stuff? Yeah.
Okay. Chris, thank you so much for the super chat. It was great to meet you both in St. Louis. Super awesome, gracious people. Well, thank you. I'm glad you were there. Glad you got to come hang out with us. And by the way, and this, I wanted to mention this, and then I forgot. Now I remembered again. If you are anywhere near the St. Louis area, and I mean within a couple 2-3 hours, it is worth joining that club. I was highly impressed, not only with the way the club ran, but with the people in the club. Because, we went out to dinner before I did my talk, and just being surrounded by people who were ultra, and I mean this in all the best possible way, ultra super nerds about fish, but not only super nerds about fish, but just, I felt like I was in my element because they were just nerdy in general. I think we had a world-renowned fungal infectious doctor and somebody who was a writer but was like an expert in all kinds of different, what was it, like
native plants
and native fish and just some what I would consider to be some experts in the fish world. And if you're looking for community and you're looking for, and they were just nice people, right? And so sometimes you'll meet people like that, and you're like, oh, okay, they know something, and they think there's something. That was not the way this was at all. Really nice, down-to-earth people, and they have not only do they have a breeder awards program where people bring in fish, breed fish, and then bring them in. They also have what would you call that? A plant breeding program. So. Was it a horticulture awards program?
Plant breeding, huh?
Plant breeding, plant growing, you know what I mean. Anyway, there's a core group of people who are growing some really cool aquatic plants, and they bring them there as well. And so after the meeting, they have their little BAP auction along with the plants, and there's people selling fish food there. It's a nice space. It's a big space. And they also run swaps. I don't remember if they do auctions or not, but they've got something coming up on the 3rd. That sounded really cool. Unfortunately, we're going to be out of town. We can't go back. But if we were available, I would have definitely gone back on June the 3rd because it sounded like a really awesome time. So, moral of the story is you need to check it out. It's cool.
Check it out.
Yeah. Carolyn, thank you so much for the super chat. Hello.
Carolyn.
It's great to see you. I'm so happy I have the time to see your live stream. Yay.
Aww.
I'm so happy you have the time, too. That's pretty cool.
Hello to San Francisco.
See, Lady Diane. And Lady Diane was there, and it was great meeting you.
Yes, it was.
BAP and HAP. That's right. Now, again, the HAP, is it the Horticulture Awards program? That's something I can think of that starts with an H, right? So just Lady Diane, if that's correct, can you just confirm that for me?
And just so you know, it's not plant breeding. What you don't know what the equivalent for plant, like fish breeding, plant
propagation.
Yes.
Yeah, I am
very
well aware
good.
of that.
I just wanted to make sure.
Maybe I just didn't want to use my words.
You could have learned something today. You could have just learned something. I just want to make sure.
I didn't want to use my words today. Oh my gosh. See the abuse I take. You're over there.
Well, I'm not even warmed up yet.
You're over there being like the language police. Yeah. Kevin, what's going on, man? Member for 2 months. That's awesome. Thank you. Volcano Tetras are doing amazing. Watching them swarm the food is crazy. I told you, isn't that nuts? Yeah, at one point a couple months ago, I brought in Volcano Tetras. You can go ahead and look them up. There's almost nothing on the internet about them except for some amazing pictures. And as Kevin will probably attest to, those pictures are like real life. I mean, they get this insane color, but it's rare that I see a fish go as crazy for food as Volcano Tetras. And I'm talking about, I know rainbow fish can go crazy. No way.
Silver tips.
Yeah, exactly. But these Volcano Tetras will outcompete any fish I've ever seen when it comes to eating. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed this. Well, you probably haven't because you're not usually down there when we eat or when they eat, the fish eat, feed the fish. There's a crebensis in there that was in that tank as a little tiny fry, and it grew up, and we never moved it out.
My little baby.
The Volcano Tetras have taught the crebensis how to go crazy for food. Probably just because the crebensis is like, if I don't go after this, it's all going to be gone. So if you ever get a chance to get Volcano Tetras, again, they're not cheap, but man, are they cool. So I've still got a group of them that I held back for myself. I'm going to put them in the 150 here pretty darn soon. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy awesome. D has a question. Any tips on how to deal with BBA? It's taking over my tank and I can't seem to slow it down. Well, two things. One, the Blackbeard algae, it can be controlled. Okay, so I know a lot of people freak out as soon as they see it and they think, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. And it can be for some aquariums, but there's a multi-pronged approach. One, deal with nutrients in the water. And so let's keep obviously no ammonia, no nitrite, nitrates at 20 parts per million or less, right? So we want to make sure that the Blackbeard algae doesn't have excessive nutrients to feed upon. If it's in a planted tank, that means we're really controlling the amount of liquid fertilizers we're putting in the water if you're using that, because that can definitely be a contributing factor. Obviously, the light is another thing. And so if you've got excessive amounts of light, either light intensity, it's too much, or light duration. You've got too much time. Usually around 9 hours is probably pretty good. I know that's what we do, 8 to 9 hours. But if your light is really, really bright and maybe you've got a lot of slow growing or medium light plants, the Blackbeard algae can flourish a little bit. Next thing is, and somebody already mentioned, hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, if you want to kill the Blackbeard algae, typically what you do is you lower the water level below wherever the Blackbeard algae is colonizing. So if it's on plants, if it's on decorations, if it's on rocks or wood, you lower the water below that or remove the things from the tank. Take a spray bottle filled with hydrogen peroxide, just spray it on there, leave it for a few minutes, then put it back in the tank. Usually it turns like a pinkish red color, it dies, and then the fish eat it. All right, so that's one thing you could consider doing. The other thing is we have found that our Siamese algae eaters, right? Be careful here because the flying fox and the Siamese algae eater are two different things, and sometimes the flying fox is sold as a Siamese algae eater, but it doesn't eat Blackbeard algae the way a Siamese algae eater will. But we have found that the Siamese algae eaters will eat Blackbeard algae. The other thing that I have found, which is kind of crazy, is if you've got a lot of mystery snails in a tank. We used to put Blackbeard covered Anubias in our 20-gallon long with all of our gold mystery snails, and usually within a couple days they had it all completely cleared off. So, and you may always have a little bit left, and then it's just a matter of control. We've got a few tanks where there's Blackbeard algae. I tend not to really care, and we control it by controlling the amount of light intensity, and water changes. What you got over there?
Also, remember, you can, when you're doing your next water change, you can drop the water and use hydrogen peroxide.
I said that already, but thank you.
Did you?
This is the second time you've actually said something that I've already said.
I just want to make sure. I wanted to just
Just
make
reiterate.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm reiterating because a lot of people are.
In her defense, you are looking at all the comments, you're reading things, and zoning me out.
And yeah, I'm not really good at doing two things at once.
Yeah, that's okay.
Am I right?
Am
I right?
You're
Okay.
definitely right about that. Yeah.
Right. Oh, hey, this is a fun stacking question. You ready?
Right. Yes, I'm ready.
This is from the King, 2254. Should I get 12 rummy nose tetra, not Rasboras, correct? 12 rummy nose tetra or 20 ember tetra in a 40 breeder community tank?
If you've got almost nothing else in the tank, do both. You've got enough room in a 40 breeder to do both. Now, if you already got a bunch of stuff in and you're like, all right, this is my last addition to this tank, I personally would do the 20 ember tetras. You?
Yeah, well,
same. And the reason I would do the 20 ember tetras is I guess I prefer their color, but it's a preference thing. A lot of people would prefer the rummy nose tetra, and for good reason, because they look awesome. But there's a couple other reasons that I think matter more even than that, and that is, for me, the most incurable fish diseases I've ever had to deal with came with rummy nose tetras. And so I have found them to be rather weak in terms of being able to resist disease. And so I have pretty much stayed away from them at this point in our fish room. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of times when you go to a pet store, they make a big deal out of tank-raised rummy nose tetras, because in theory, they should be a little bit more adaptable to standard water parameters. But I don't know if I've necessarily found that to be true. They're more expensive, to be sure, but I don't know if I've found it to be for them to be dramatically more resilient. On the other hand, the embers are, at least for us, have always been like bulletproof. I mean, they're really hardy fish. So
and
that's
cute.
Yeah, that's why I tend to prefer the embers over the rummy nose. But if you've got space, I mean, that's not an unreasonable thing to have both of them in a tank in those quantities. Got something?
Yeah, I do.
You just looked like you had something to say.
I do. I was like, Tom wants to know, what type of fish do you keep in your pond?
Well,
and do you keep a heater in it? Do you keep a heater in it over the winter?
So Joanna's pond, what we've tended to do here is pretty soon, for those of you who like ponds, next month Joanna's going to do a video on the pond. And because it's still been a little bit cold here to be setting that up, but I think in the next couple weeks we'll be able to do that.
Did you hear that?
Joanna will be. I'll grab the fish and chuck them in there. She'll set up the whole situation.
The last time we did it, I remember looking around and it was just me.
We is sometimes you. We is sometimes us.
I'll be right back. One of those.
So, what we have done, we're not pond experts, and we haven't been keeping ponds for a long time. It's just been a couple of seasons. We did white clouds and guppies, and both of them bred like crazy. Last year we tried bristlenose plecos, and was it the Florida flagfish?
Yep.
And a frog got into the pond, and we never saw anything as a result.
It was a haven for all. It was like ever since the frog, then I would see birds.
Yeah.
And then it was just like wah wah.
Yeah. So this year I think I've got a group of orange Medaka rice fish that I kept. We were selling those at the swap, but I kept back a group of about 6 or 8. I want to put those in there, and then we'll see. I wouldn't mind trying the bristlenose again. Now, because if we put the fish in next month, there's going to be plenty of evenings where it's going to still be cold. And so I will probably put a heater in there just to kind of sort of stabilize the pond, because, what is that, a 50 or 55 gallon pond?
Yeah. 50,
and most of it is above ground, so I don't want really, really big fluctuations in temperature. And so we'll put the heater in there. I'll probably set it to around 68 or 70, just so that in the month of May, it kind of stabilizes it a little bit. We don't get the big swings like we sometimes, like it's possible in May. Yeah, that's the plan, I think. Tom says the thing that I just answered. See, I recognize it right away.
Good job.
I know. I'm going to see. Whip, I need a shirt, buddy. Soon as mine come in, I'll ship you one.
Right?
Wow, yeah, that's the Whip's World shirt.
It's amazing.
Yep, it is. But we're clashing a little bit with our colors today, because I've got the orange and you've got the yellow.
Yeah, but there's orange in my shirt.
I suppose, but it's still
Yeah.
sort of clashing.
Then you're clashing with me. I'm not
But
clashing with
I
you.
wore I sat down first.
That's true.
Yeah.
But mine's cooler than
Whoever
yours.
gets to the chair first is the lead sitter.
Hey, when's the opening day
Oh, for the Schaumburg Boomers
for the Boomas?
is also the weekend of May the 20th, like the 19th
Oh,
or
that's
20th,
right.
that Friday. Yeah, we're going to miss opening weekend. Very
Bummer.
not cool about that. Not cool at all. But we got the rest of the summer, so it'll be okay. Dee says, well, thanks for the tips. I'll try the hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, it's worth a try for the Blackbeard Algae.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Yep. J-Dubs, true married couple, zones you right out. My wife does it to me. Yeah, we do. We just get used to it. It happens sometimes. Not necessary to get offended by it. Just know that it's going to happen. Kim says, wild-caught rummy nose is much more robust if you can find them. It depends on your water parameters. So we've got harder water with a higher pH, and I put those fish in, and they are almost always like, yeah, this stinks. Bye. So,
Chris wants to know any ill effects from the flood, from the primetime flood.
Thanks for asking. No, everything dried out just fine. We fixed the hose situation. I mean, we did that immediately, but everything's okay. But I will tell you that every time I go down there, it's the first thing I'm checking is the water. And I've never had to do that before, but
I have been known to as well.
Yeah.
Just in case.
And
Just
then
walk
I reminded,
by.
Luke, I reminded Luke, hey, you're going to turn off the water. And he just kind of looked at me like,
Of course I am. I've done it 500 times before.
yeah. Yep. So I think he's got it.
Cynthia says, hello from Idaho.
Hello.
East or west? North or south? I'm just curious.
Idaho
So I
is
can
kind of
visually-
skinny. So you really
know.
can't determine, like, could you imagine you live at the very top of Idaho? Are you in East or West Idaho? I don't know. East Idaho is right here. So, like, I don't know how many miles it is. Like, does anybody know that? How many miles? Like, off the top of your head, I'm not talking about Google, but how many miles is it to drive from east to west in Idaho at the very, very top of the state? Like, how long does that take? Because Idaho just kind of goes like that.
Yeah.
You know?
I
You know
don't
what I'm saying?
I do.
Bard Stuff,
Oh,
thank you so
close
much.
to Boise.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Thank you so much for being a member the last 7 months. Have 10 Tucano, 10 green neons, 3 peas, some pygmies, and a betta in a planted 20 long. I feel it needs something more green neon. Something else? Yeah, you could do a few more green neons in there for sure if you wanted to.
Okay, you can.
Yeah, why not? I like it. I like your idea.
So, Cynthia, I have to ask you, have you ever hopped over the border, over to Oregon, Ontario, Oregon, and gone to Andrews Seed? I'm just wondering. I got to know. One day, I need to go there. If I'm anywhere near
have
there.
fun. I don't know what that is, but
That's Laura's parents' garden center. You know by now.
well, I know.
These years,
yeah, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean,
it's my favorite YouTuber. It's funny because like the first year I would mention Laura. He's like, "Wait, Laura who?" Because I work with Laura's and there's lots of Laura's. Now he's just like, "Oh yeah, it's Garden Answer." It's funny.
I hear it every morning.
There she is,
morning.
right?
Yep.
That's kind of the joke that a lot of spouses know her, because they just hear her talking all the time.
Well, we hear that too a lot too when people come to the swaps or Aqua
Yes.
Shella. There'll be some.
Like,
There'll be
you're
some
on
people
the
like, oh yeah, and
TV.
she'll be like, yeah, I hear you all the time. I'm like, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
that you gotta
Turn us
you gotta
off.
sit through that every day. But Aquatics, you should get the water sensing devices that alarms and message your phone. Yes, most definitely. If the water is detected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That is something that is on my list of things to do because, yeah. Rio says, what is the most effective way to deal with green hair algae without adding more bioload? Again, same thing with the Blackbeard. Water changes, keeping nitrates 20 parts per million or less, definitely controlling any liquid fertilizers, controlling light. And there are fish that will eat it. Florida flagfish are probably the best at eating it, but sometimes mollies will eat it. I mean, I have mollies, like the sailfins would eat the heck out of that stuff, but my black mollies wouldn't. So it was a really weird thing. So that's probably the way I would go, if you've got a really small tank with tiny fish, a mono shrimp will eat it too. Chrissy says, why do people say discus are so sensitive when I actually cycle the tank with discus in there and they are happy and healthy? Angelfish are the ones that always give me issues for some reason. I don't know. I mean, we have people in the Chicagoland area that keep discus in Chicago water. They don't breed in Chicago. At least nobody that I know who has them has ever had them successfully breed without adding in at least some RO, because our water is on the harder side. When I say harder side, 10-ish degrees GHKH sort of thing, pH of about 8 to 8.2. But yeah, I mean, they do okay. But the other thing too is maybe your water parameters are already really, really good for them, right? So if you've got a pH that's 7 or below and your water hardness is low single digits, well, then you're in really good shape. All you got to do is adjust temperature. But for a lot of people who live in the United States, at least, the water tends to be a little bit on the harder side, and pH can be a little bit higher as well. So if that's the case, then it's like, okay, well, you've got, and the other thing too is having good water parameters is important long term. And so, yeah, for most people, the ammonia and the nitrite spikes, discus don't do well with that. Discus don't do well with high nitrate. So if they have multiple compounding issues, like one of those things is going on, plus they have harder water with a higher pH, you combine all those things, and sometimes discus are like, yeah. And of course, part of it is where you get them from. If you have somebody who's breeding them in water that's a little bit on the harder side with a slightly higher pH, and the discus managed to breed and raise their fry, then they're going to be more tolerant than those discus that are bred, using mostly RO water, where they've been kept in these really, really, really almost perfect water parameters.
Perfect.
Perry says, go with Chinese algae eater. For what? The only thing Chinese algae eaters have ever done for us is eat just standard, like the brown diatom algae, a little bit of soft green. I haven't had them. Well, of course, I shouldn't say that because I don't know. Are we talking about green hair algae? Because I actually don't know the answer to that. I mean, I guess maybe you would if you've had Chinese algae eaters eat green hair algae, but I don't think I've ever had them in a tank where that was an issue, or put them in a tank. Just because one thing too is the Chinese algae eaters get larger than Siamese algae eaters and far more aggressive than the Siamese algae eaters.
I'm going to grab a couple just because I can.
Please do.
All right, if I can find it. This is from Perry. Would you recommend the Fluval Flex aquarium?
I have never. Wait, is that true? Have we ever had a Fluval Flex?
No, but I've seen them and wanted them.
Oh, well, that means everything. And we're perfectly qualified to give you our opinion.
Aren't those ones that are typically used in like scaping competition, like the smaller ones?
Yeah, sometimes. We had the Fluval, or we do have a Fluval spec, which is a good tank. I really like that aquarium. I mean, they look nice. I like them. I really do like the all-in-one sort of thing. If you don't have like a fish room like we do, and you've got a couple of tanks or a few aquariums, and you don't want to see hang-on-back filters and sponge filters, and you don't want to deal with a canister filter, but you want that nice, clean background. You want plenty of space for whatever type of filtration you want to put in there. You want the filtration to all be hidden. You want the heater to be hidden. It's a nice-looking tank. I do like the way they look. I wouldn't ever not have one. There's no reason why I could ever think to not have one. So I haven't heard anything bad about them, like, oh my gosh, mine are always breaking or something like that. Mm-hmm. So
no, and they look nice. Yeah,
I like them.
He likes them. Wait, there's another one. Ken from Hawaii. I was given a new box of Seachem Plant Pack Fundamentals. Can you explain, like I'm 5 years old, the difference between Flourish, Flourish Excel, and Flourish Iron, and when to use which?
Okay, so Flourish is, and I haven't used these products in a while, but from my memory, I think Seachem Flourish is just their standard liquid fertilizer. Flourish Excel is sold as a CO2 replacement. It is not. That product, a lot of people buy it thinking that, I instead of running CO2 in my aquarium, I can just dump this chemical in here and it will provide CO2 to the plants. It doesn't do that. Right? The CO2 Excel is more or less an algicide, and it's got some concentration of formalin in there from what I can remember. And yeah, and as Max says, you can use that for killing algae, but it's not going to really enhance plant growth at all. I don't use this stuff. Anytime you're dumping chemicals into a tank, you do run the risk of doing something bad to your fish. Well, if it's not acute, then it could be some kind of a chronic problem that eventually cuts down on their lifespan. So I don't use the Seachem Flourish or Seachem Excel. I just don't. If I've got algae problems, I want to deal with the root cause. I don't want to dump chemicals into the tank to try to fix something that is off that's causing the algae to grow. And then the third one is the iron. That's just an iron supplement, best for plants that require additional iron. I think maybe some of your red plants might require that. But I also think that a lot of times the iron is probably most useful if you're running actual CO2 systems and you have higher light plants. But I wouldn't just start adding the iron just to add it, right? I would just start with the liquid fertilizer. And to be clear, the tanks you see back here, every single tank we have in the fish room, I've said this a million times, we primarily have low to medium light plants that do not require CO2. After the initial setup of an aquarium, that first day, we'll use root tabs when we set the aquarium up. I might give it a little spritz of a liquid fertilizer, although most of the time I don't. And then we never use this stuff again, ever. Every single plant you see in our fish room, every single planted tank that you see does not get any fertilizers whatsoever. Why? Because just like in nature, and in fact, the fish in an aquarium do almost a better job than fish in nature because we keep them in a confined area, and usually we have a more concentrated stocking level in an aquarium than what we'd have in nature. And so because of that, the fish waste that sinks into the substrate, the gravel and the sand, and the ammonia that they're producing, which eventually, is converted to nitrite and then nitrate, the plants suck all that stuff up. And so I've never found it necessary to add additional fertilizers, but at the same time, we're not growing highlight plants. We're not using CO2. And so that's why we can get away with it and not have any issues. So, yeah.
What do you think about this, what Whip's World said? Hey, Whip.
What's up, man?
If a fish can't turn around without touching the glass, theoretically, I feel it's too small. I don't know if that's necessarily a written in stone rule. It's just a Whip rule. How would you rate that rule?
I would rate that a solid 10 out of 10. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I've had that problem very few times, but the last time I had that issue was I had the 125 gallon, and our Nile tilapia, Timmy, who was in many of our older videos, I got these Nile tilapia from the GCCA meeting. They were a BAP, somebody bred them. I think nobody was taking them. It was one of those things where like, somebody please take these fish for $1. I took the fish. There were 10 of them, I think, something like 10. They were tiny, and I mean maybe a half inch. I chucked them in a 10 gallon. I did no research, but my plan was, all right, I'm going to take the fish, I'm going to bring them to the swap when we go, and I'll get rid of them. Somebody will want them, right? I am not kidding you. Within a month, those fish went from a half inch-ish to probably 2.5 inches, maybe larger, and they were very active. And I'm like, holy cow. Then I think I actually had to keep them 2 months, and by 2 months in a 10 gallon, they were like 3.5 inches already, and one of them was really starting to color up and show absolutely amazing color. So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep this big one. The rest of them have to go. They're the fastest growing fish I've ever seen in my life, and they were eating everything you throw in the tank. It didn't matter. It did not matter what you put in that tank. It would eat it all.
Sandwiches?
You could feed them bologna sandwiches if you wanted. They'd be like, hey, thank you. You got any mayo? So I took that one fish, chucked it in there, sold the rest. So within a very short period of time, now at the time I had Oscars in that tank and I think there was some larger peacock cichlids. It's just the way it worked out. Not something I normally do, but this fish outgrew them all rapidly, and then it became an 18.5 inch fish. Tall-bodied, wide, huge lips, big old fish. One of the most gentle fish ever. I mean, that fish had no aggressive bone in his body. However, the one thing was when he would turn, he was mouth to tail front and back of that 125. So we were actually thinking, like, I did not want to get rid of that fish. I was thinking, do I put him in the 150? That's 2 feet, but then we're losing a couple of feet there. So we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And then unfortunately, he passed away over like just one night. It was like he was fine. And then the next morning I walk in, I'm like,
Fish
what
heart
happened?
attack.
I was like heartbroken. I was heartbroken. I love that fish.
Yeah.
So
He was a great fish.
Yeah. But anyway, I agree with you that if a fish cannot turn around in a tank, it's probably time to either rehome the fish or consider getting a larger tank.
Mackenzie says, oh snap, I've been binge watching and didn't realize this was actually live. Yes, we're live, Mackenzie.
Yes. See, and we even answered your question.
No
How
question.
about that? Or we answered your statement, or we acknowledged your statement. Right?
Yeah.
I figured it out eventually. Man, oh man.
Give me my moment.
Wow. It's a rough crowd tonight. I'm telling you. Zach says, how often do you do a complete tank clean with Undergravel Filter? Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
The answer is never. I don't run any Undergravel filters because, for a couple reasons. One, a lot of the fish that we keep dig, and so the minute they dig a hole and expose the Undergravel filter, should they do that, now the Undergravel filter no longer serves a purpose. I know you can put aid crate and stuff on there and try to keep them from digging, but I just find it to all be a pain. And then the second thing is you do get a lot of detritus down there at the bottom, and that detritus increases your nitrate levels because it's all of that fish waste that's trapped down there is just sitting there. And it's really difficult to get to unless you stick a hose like where the intake, the uplift tube would go, and you kind of shove that down in there and try to suck it out that way. Some people will put a power head on an Undergravel filter. Oh, I can't say that tonight. A UGF. And I find that to be, well, if you're going to do that, I would rather just have a hang-on back filter at that point. The minute I've got to use electricity to power either a sponge filter or the Undergravel filter, I'm not doing that. I would rather just, like I said, use a hang-on back filter. So what I did is I noticed our 75 gallon and the 150 when we originally set that up, because those came with the Undergravel filter when we got them. I think it was about 7 years or so, and I was finally like, you know what? I'm redoing this tank and I'm pulling these things out, and that's exactly what I did. I pulled them out and never put them back in again, and I don't think I would ever use them again. So, and I know people like them, and that's cool. If you've got plants and if the plant roots grow in there and they start blocking up all those holes, that reduces the effectiveness. If you got fish that dig, that reduces the effectiveness. So, yeah, I just don't use them, but you can. It's okay. But if you've got to break it down to get under there, because there's a lot of stuff at that point, it's like, man, if I'm breaking this down, I might as well just take it out.
We've got two from Scotland. We've got Donnie from Glasgow, and we have Stephen from, it just jumped. Stephen from Falkirk, Scotland.
That's pretty awesome.
Good
Thanks
morning.
for being here.
Yeah.
Late night, right?
Well, yeah.
It's 7 hours-ish. So what is it in Scotland? It's got to be, is it similar to
check. I've got that.
the UK? I mean, the Great Britain, I think it's around 7 hours difference, isn't it?
Well, let's see here.
7, 8, somewhere there.
Why don't I have Scotland?
Wow.
I did.
She's got everything else on her phone.
I did.
Man, oh man.
I've got Dublin.
Stephen says it's 2:38 a.m. I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was right. Was I pretty close? 6 hours?
6
Okay.
hours.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Max says, I live in the UK and have always had an issue with pH from the tap. It's 7.1, but in the tank it's 6.0. Fish are okay. Is that okay? Yeah, the only thing you have to really check with that's a great question, is how fast does it go down? I mean, is it pretty much as soon as it enters a tank, or does it take a couple days and you're getting these pH swings? If the fish are okay, do I overly stress about it? No, but it is a big change. 7.1 to 6 is a big change. And so maybe what I would be doing, if that were my tank, is I would be doing more frequent water changes with far less volume. And that way you don't get these big fluctuations in pH. You just get these little ones, right? Maybe every day, every other day, you're doing 5%, which is it's really not much at all, right? But if your goal is to keep those nitrates down, and instead of doing 30% water change every week, you do 5. Well, you have to go up a little bit from there. So it'd be like, I don't know what it would be exactly. Like let's say 5, 7 or 8% water changes or something like that. And you get these little fluctuations, right? And that would be a way to deal with that. Now, as long as your fish are okay with that pH of 6 and they're doing okay, and you said you do 20% every week, so maybe you're doing what's equivalent to, if you could do it every other day, let's say you did it 4 days a week, maybe like a 8% water changes or something, however that works out. That might be a better thing to keep it more stable. Okay. Ripe says, hi, so I just have a question about angelfish tank mates. So I want to get some fish to put in my tank. I have 3 angels, 1 crebensis, and a catfish Raphael stripe. That's really cool. All in a 45-gallon show tank. So what would we do? All right, so
let's have a baby Raphael.
Yeah, those fish are awesome. We've got one too. So, fun fact, I'm sure you know this, but just for everybody else, the Raphael Cat is potentially one of the longest living freshwater, standardly available aquarium fish that you can buy. A lot of people report having those things for 30 to 35 years. Pretty cool. It's the oldest fish that we've had in our fish room, and I believe at this point it's around 15 years old, and it's still like crazy. I mean, the thing is still acting like when food comes out, like, yeah, this is great. But they get big, so you will have to consider what you want to do with that fish at full size. It's not like a monster catfish. It's not like that way. But ours right now is probably 7 inches, but it's 7 inches long, but it's also a really big, bulky fish. So not terribly active, right? So you've got some time there. 3 angels, again, with the 3 angels, if they're getting along now, great. Just keep an eye on them, because if you wind up getting a pair, that 3rd angel with a 45-gallon show tank might get pushed over and might not be able to get far enough away from a pair. Should that happen, right? It's just something to keep an eye on. You don't have to remove anything right now, but you're going to want to watch that. Crebensis is cool. I love that fish. So we're looking for tank mates for the angelfish. And so what I'm assuming is that you want something that is, you've kind of got almost like 3 centerpiece fish in there with the angels, the crib, and even the Raphael Cat, right? So we'd want something a little bit bigger that the angelfish wouldn't eat. Raphael cats will eat fish that are small, but they've got a small mouth for a catfish, so it's not a huge concern. What would you do? You have any ideas of a fish large enough? And it can't be a fin nipper, right? We don't want it nipping at the angel, especially if any of them are veil tails.
And this is in a 45?
It's in a 45.
And did you already mention how long the Raphael can stay in?
Yes.
It's okay, so that's
yeah,
still
we said that will have to be something that might need to be moved at some point. So I've got like 3 off the top of my head that I really like, that I'm really excited about. I'm really stoked about these ideas.
Is it about peach?
No vegetables. Vegetables are too vulnerable. Okay, so can I give one?
Yeah.
Check out this. Now I'm going to give you one. This first one, admittedly, is going to be harder to find and expensive, but they're out there and they're becoming more popular. And that is the cherry tetra. We did a species profile on that fish.
Pretty.
The fish is insanely awesome. I mean, that deep orange color that you see in the pictures and that you see in the video, I mean, I don't even think the video does it justice. So the cherry tetra would be an insanely awesome, like, schooling fish in a 45-gallon like that. 10, 12, 14 of those. I mean, that would just be like a statement fish. Like, where did you get those? What else? Candy cane tetra.
Mm-hmm.
The X-ray tetra. So I'm thinking slightly larger. The serpe, although that can be a little bit fin nippy, but I'm thinking tetras that are a little bit on the larger side, so a full-grown angel is going to be like, oh, look at tiny neon. Gulp. That was delicious. Thanks for the fish food. Like, thanks, man. That was a $4 fish you just ate there, buddy.
What about Congos?
Oh, good one. Congo tetras. Yeah, that was a really good.
They're pretty.
Yeah. Congo tetra would be an excellent idea. Dwarf neon rainbows would be really cool if you want that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Congo, only I don't think it's quite as striking, but give you a little bit of action. What else do we have in the land of schooling type fish? What do you guys got? Something that you would just love to see in a 45-gallon.
How about if you don't necessarily, you know they're there, but you don't necessarily need to see them? How about glass cats?
Oh, nice. Yep. That's a good one. That's an unusual suggestion.
Mystery.
And get like, we've got 5 of them in a 75-gallon. Although they're out. It's not like they're shy.
Yeah.
If you keep them in a group and
I'm
they get
just
used
kidding
to it.
that you won't see them.
Yeah, I know. Because they're clear. But that is a really unusual fish that used to be way more popular. Like back in the 80s,
Yeah,
glass cats were everywhere. They were literally everywhere.
Like on the street and stuff?
Mm-hmm. You'd be walking down the street and you'd get punched in the face by a glass cat. They just walk by. What are you looking at? Pow!
Like kick you in the shin.
I come home with a black eye. My mom would be like, "What happened? A glass cat hit me in the face again." Right? It hurts so bad. It doesn't even have arms. Right? Why are you crying? I can't help it.
And this is the moment it went all wrong.
That's right. It did. Yeah, I love the glass cat idea. That would be really cool. Hold on. Oink. 19 months. Been a member for 19 months. By the way, I guess that's what people ask sometimes. You know, what's one of the advantages of being a member? And you basically get these like free super chat things every month, which I think that was a good idea.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for everything you do. As a first-time mom to 12 baby fairy cichlids, do you think housing them early with shellies or other bottom dwellers might cut down aggression long term?
It's an interesting thought.
I don't know if it'll matter. But I also don't think that it's going to be an overwhelming problem anyway. So if you're thinking, okay, hold on. If you're thinking you want to keep them together later and you would like your fairy cichlids to be on the smaller side to introduce them to one another, that's an idea. It depends on how tall your tank is too. I mean, if you've got a taller tank like a 40 breeder or a 55-gallon, that's probably going to work. You're going to want some rock work anyway for them, just to kind of give them their own space and maybe get the shells in more of an open space and hope that your shell dwellers don't move all the shells over to the rocks anyway. But they kind of do gravitate towards anywhere from like lower third, like the top of the lower third to mid-water. At least ours did. The only thing that you'll have to think about is what happens when everybody's breeding, right? Who's putting up the biggest fight for the territories? But as long as they're big enough where your shell dwellers aren't going to eat them, because believe it or not, they will eat fish if they can, if they're really small. That was one of the problems we had, and I should have appreciated this earlier. But we had mixed our Cypochromos leptosoma with Neolamprologus brevis. The brevis is a shell dweller that gets a little bit larger than a multi and a larger mouth. And all of a sudden, my Cypochromos hadn't bred in like a year. They were kicking out babies left and right. I mean, the tank was full. I don't know how many hundreds of fish I pulled out of that tank at one point. But I had to make 2 adjustments to that tank. The first one was getting the brevis out because I think the largest male brevis were eating some of the Cypochromos fry. And then I had to remove a bunch of males because the males were too busy flaring and showing off to one another. And then when I reduced their population, all of a sudden now we've got, I don't know how many fry in that tank. There's got to be at least 20. And spoiler alert, they will be on the website for the green water swap for the first time in probably a year and a half because we've got quite a bit now. And I love them.
What time is it? 8:48. I'm going to have to remember that and watch the live stream so I can get a still shot of you doing jazz hands for flaring.
Flaring at one another.
Christmas card.
Hey, you got to do that sometimes.
Funny. Wait, I had a question I wanted to answer here. This is from Everett. I just got a betta and his name is Jeff. I love that. That's a fun name. When he comes to take a breath, he makes a bubble, but they don't go away.
Yeah, he's making a bubble nest. Most likely.
He's setting up camp.
Yep.
He's a lovely lady.
A lady.
Yep.
Yeah. But be careful with that whole situation because if he doesn't like the lady's not surviving that situation.
Yeah,
you know what I was thinking the other day?
Only add a lady if you know what you're doing.
Can I just tell you what I was thinking the other day? I don't know why this popped into my brain, but I don't know where my brain is half the time. I really don't. I became very thankful that human beings do not act like cichlids?
Oh,
Could you imagine if human beings acted like cichlids? Well, first of all, the males would be beautiful, and all the females would be just like not have no color whatsoever.
What's up with the cardinal,
But here's the other thing. Imagine if human beings acted like African cichlids, and when you decided, or even worse, like some of the South American cichlids, like I'm thinking Dovi, red devil cichlids, Midas, and all of a sudden, like the situation isn't, or the relationship isn't working out. It's like, what happened to your wife? Wasn't working out. So that's it, huh?
No questions.
That's it. Gonna need a new one. And what about the babies? Well, we had 1,000 babies. She wasn't working out anymore. Then I got irritated with the babies. They're gone too.
Yeah.
I had to correct. Maybe it's time for you to correct them. Wait, I didn't do the line.
No,
right.
You didn't do it.
No, hold on. Can I start over? This is a movie quote. Let's see who gets it.
I can do it right and you can't. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on. So the movie quote is, maybe she needs to be corrected. And my kid, maybe he needs to be corrected too. When my family started questioning, I corrected them. Okay, let's see. It's not the exact quote.
You have to roll the R. Corrected.
Yeah, I don't think I did it justice, but we'll see who can do that from my, oh my gosh.
Whatever.
Moby, instantly, The Shining.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Michelle says, I don't know which one of you asked about the Fluval, but ever since you started talking about them, I went on their site and now I want one. It's cool.
Yeah.
Somebody did mention, and it's a good point, and I didn't mention this, that those, just like these, any all-in-one tank, you are absolutely going to lose space because the filter is hidden away in the back. And so while these are 8.3 gallons, I can almost guarantee you they are actually 8 gallons of swimming space because at least 0.3 gallons is taken up by that back wall. The Fluval Flex, I would imagine, is, they have like a 32 gallon, but my guess is at least 2 to 5 gallons is stuck behind that wall. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'm willing, as long as you understand that, I'm willing to make that trade. Like I said, if I didn't have a fish room, I don't know if I would. I think that would be my go-to. Not the Fluval Flex necessarily, but all-in-one tanks, just because they're clean looking, and I really like that. So, and they're, by the way, if done properly, they're also extraordinarily quiet, right? Because you don't have motors outside the tank, and everything is internal, and so those filters tend to be quiet. The downside to some of those filters are when they clog, like sometimes in here, these intakes, just, they'll get green hair algae or some duckweed will clog them up. The flow can be reduced, but I don't mind them. I kind of like them.
Melanie's here.
What's up?
Yay, Melanie.
What's up? Happy hanging out with you. It was great hanging out with you this weekend.
Anybody who watched my video today who doesn't already know her, you've met Melanie.
Yeah,
Yay.
Melanie's got mad skills.
She does. Yeah. She does have mad skills.
Dan says, I'd like to get a Flowerhorn. Any suggestions on tank size? Do you have one now?
Up.
Or have you ever? No, I have never had Flowerhorn, but if I did, I would want a absolute minimum of a 75 gallon for just a single Flowerhorn. That is not a fish you're going to be able to have like, hey, what's the best tank mates for a Flowerhorn? Because that list is basically, don't bother. Just keep the Flowerhorn by itself. Why take a chance? I think the colors are absolutely amazing. I'm not so sure about the ones with the really giant nuchal humps. I guess they've kind of grown on me. Just like they grow on the Flowerhorn. That'd be another thing. Could you imagine if, again, going back to the cichlid thing, the males potentially could have a giant second bulbous bump on their head, and then they'd have a hard time walking. They just keep like falling over and bumping into walls and stuff. Like, oh, my nuchal hump. So I haven't kept them, but yeah, minimum of 75. And it's cool. I mean, that kind of fish, just like when we had the Midas cichlids, they were perfectly suited for that 75, or Midas would have had to have moved up eventually, but they're a great fish. They have so much personality, kind of like an Oscar, where you can get away with like, okay, I've only got one fish in the tank, but it's highly entertaining.
Highly entertaining. Oh, Tabitha wants to know, can I keep 10? Oh my goodness, what did this? Hold on here. Wow.
I don't know about you.
Can I keep 10 neon tetras and 6 cories and a betta in a 20 gallon?
Yeah, I think that would work. Just keep an eye on your neon tetras well fed so that they don't fin at the betta. Shorter fin bettas, you always have a greater chance of them not attracting the fin nipping capabilities of some fish. But in terms of, we've done that combination before, and I don't remember ever having a problem. So now that's not to say that you couldn't have a problem. It's not to say that your bettas would be like, oh my gosh, those fins are delicious. Hey everybody, let's just go ahead and he's not very fast. We'll just get him. We'll get him real good, right? But I could see that combination working. Rio says, what is your opinion on keeping Neolampologus multifasciatus, the multi-shell dweller, with other shell-dwelling cichlids like Burchardi? Well, Burchardi are not shell dwellers. They are rock dwellers. And it can be done. The only thing that I'll say with most Lake Tanganyikan fish, as you keep them together in a community setting of Lake Tanganyikan fish, you tend not to see a whole lot of breeding going on because they do eventually pick off one another's fry. And they might not be 100% successful at doing that, but it really does cut down on the potential breeding situation. Emma says, how long can ick live in an empty tank infected with ick? That's a great question. So here's what I would do if I had a tank that had an ick infestation, and then let's just say I lost all the fish, which really stinks. What I would do is I would turn the heater up to about 86 degrees. Now there's no fish in there, right? So you're not killing anything. At least not any fish. So I would turn that heater up to 86 degrees. I would, whatever ick meds you were using, still keep them in there for about a week and a half. And then after a week and a half, I would do a water change, turn the temperature down. All the ick should be dead. First of all, the temperature in and of itself at around 86 or 87 is going to kill the ick, just straight up kill it, right? Even without the meds. But just to be extra safe, I would probably throw in my ick X for at least 7 to, let's say, 10 days, and then water change that stuff out, get the temperatures back down into the 70s. You most likely should be okay after that point. So like if it was a quarantine tank or something like that too, that's what I would do. And then people ask all the time, well, do you have to change the filter media or anything else? Nope. If you've done that, everything should be dead everywhere in terms of ick.
Carrie's here too. Science gal.
What's up? What's
hey.
up? Yeah, we got to hang out with Carrie and Jesse.
Yep.
That's always fun. Carrie did some driving, crossed the state a couple times.
Crazy.
It was cool.
Yeah. So cool. Fun. It was fun time.
Ooh, Snowball's got a good question. What are some good small South American cichlids for a 40 breeder? Love that question. So let's just stay New World and let's just stay small. Can we just stay small cichlids for a second? I'm going to strictly New World Apistogramma. All right. There's so many different types of Apistogramma. That is the genus, but you've got the Apistogramma. One of my favorites, some that we have in the fish room right now, is the Panduro. I really love those. Yeah. They're very hardy. You've got the Cockatoides, the Agassizii, Borellii, Mendezi, which we kept for a while, and that was a really good one. You have the Fire Reds. Let's see what else. But that's a really, really good option. And then you've got the Rams. Right, depending on if you want to keep your tank on the warmer side, you've got the German blue rams and all their derivatives like the electric blues and the yellows. And then you've got the Bolivian ram. Those are a little bit more hardy in terms of you don't have to keep them as warm. They are more adaptable to slightly harder water with a little bit of a higher pH. Like we keep those with no problem, but can't keep the German blue rams. They don't do well in our water. So those are all really, really great options. But with a 40 breeder, you could also consider something like the Cryptoheros nanoluteus. You could do rainbow cichlids, but they'll demolish plants. So just know that. In a 40 breeder, you've got the entire genus of the Guayanacara. Like we keep the Sturgiosi in a 33 long. That's a really cool fish.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many options. Curviceps cichlids, keyhole cichlids. What else? But yeah, there's some really, really good options for a 40 breeder. You got some cool stuff. Blake says, I kept congos with angels before. Yeah, Soapy, that was a good combo for us. Alex says, can cories handle tannins like betta fish can? Yeah, yes they can, and they would probably appreciate it too.
My rainbow cichlids. Did you see that already?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. See?
No, I didn't see it. I mentioned rainbow cichlids, but I didn't see a question about them.
Okay, my rainbow cichlids are demolishing plecos for some reason.
Really?
But they tolerate everyone else.
That's interesting. I wonder if they're trying to breed. Are they pairing up and they're trying to find a little? Ours used to breed we had rocks in a 40 breeder and they wouldn't let anything near there. And so if, let's just say in your tank, you had one big pile of rocks somewhere, and that was kind of like the main territory. Well, plecos love to hide in rocks. And then if you just happen to have rainbow cichlids that are in there and they're trying to breed, they're not going to allow that. And so that could be part of it.
Could be.
Could be. It could be part of the situation.
And Whip, Victoria says she's also wearing your shirt. So your shirt is like everywhere.
It's a popular thing.
Tonight.
Yeah.
It's where it is.
Kay says, what can I do to help filter a 10-gallon overstocked aquarium until I'm able to rehome them? The filter it has now is an Aqueon 10 hang-on, and even with frequent water changes, I'm still having issues. Well, it depends on what kind of issues you're having. So if we're having issues with just straight up an ammonia or nitrite spike, that's not necessarily going to be handled by additional filtration, because I am a big believer that the biological filtration of an aquarium, even an overstocked 10. So let me back up. Let me give you an example. I just got some fish. We just got a decent shipment of fish in. I took 30 1.5-inch fish that are relatively tall and stuck them in a 10-gallon. 30. That's a lot of fish. That's not a permanent thing, so please don't freak out. Those fish will be gone in 4 weeks. It's a quarantine tank. In that quarantine tank right now, I have one Hydro 2 sponge filter. That's it. I put in some Fritz turbo starch just to kind of add some more beneficial bacteria, but I don't expect a lot of issues there. And so to be clear then, we've got different types of filtration. If we're having issues with ammonia or nitrite, another filter isn't going to do anything, right? We just want to make sure that the microbes that are currently associated with the filter media in your current filter replicate and grow to a concentration that will handle the additional load. And they will do that, and they will grow on the surface of that aquarium as well. If you're having issues with mechanical filtration, you've got stuff floating around in the water, it just doesn't look very good, that's a different story, right? Then a slightly larger filter, but transferring over all the current filter media so that you don't wind up with an ammonia spike, that may be helpful, just so that it's capturing more of the gunk out of the water. So yeah, Victoria says, Joanna, we are twinning at the moment. I'm also wearing my Sunshine Yellow Whips World merch. Is that 3 people now? Or did you read that one? That was 2 people. Did I do it?
You did it.
I thought it was 3 people.
It's a magical moment. It's a magical moment.
But I recognized that you had said.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You read the entire comment, and I had to stare at you for like 5 minutes.
Said it. I thought it was somebody else, and then I just read that one. I'm like, oh, dang, there's 3 people now. At least I knew that there was something happening.
Ride that bike backwards there, buddy.
I'm not doing nothing to say. Legion says, this is a good question. How do you determine how big of a tank a sponge filter can handle? Because I see Corey from Aquarium Co-op use his medium sponge filter made for a 20-gallon on much bigger tanks. That goes exactly, again, what I was just saying. And I promise you, that filter that he's using, that medium sponge filter made for a 20-gallon on much larger tanks, has all, and I mean all, of the surface area necessary for the beneficial bacteria to handle that larger tank. The only consideration at that point is there enough water flow so that the water is circulating properly, so that the ammonia can get sucked through that filter, and most likely it is. Most of the filters will have some type of recommendation, and it's a relatively safe thing to do, is to use that recommendation, but we do that all the time. We primarily use the ATI Hydro sponge filters. I like that finer sponge filter material, just because we really rely on them to do mechanical filtration, and those smaller pores trap more stuff and then don't release it back into the tank when we move the filter around to clean it. But anyway, it's not uncommon for me to have a 40 breeder with one sponge filter in there, maybe like a Hydro 3 and 200 fish. And it's like, it's fine. From a biological filtration perspective, I am a huge believer that as long as you've got water flow in the tank and you don't overstock your tank drastically from the start, you allow the beneficial bacteria to grow on the surfaces of your tank, you would be surprised how much surface area there is for beneficial bacteria. And you don't need these monster filters for biological filtration. Yes, for mechanical filtration, to make the water look better, that might be more necessary, using filter floss. But almost everybody, in terms of biological filtration, dramatically over-filters their tanks. Not that it's bad, because again, we like water flow. We don't want dead spots in the tank. We're getting this algae to grow. You see sometimes if you've got a dead spot, you start getting the white fog kind of rising up from your substrate. It's kind of like a bacterial bloom. And I go, that's not good. We don't want stuff all over the substrate. I get all that. And that sometimes requires more flow, more filter media, especially if you got like cichlids and things like that.
Zen Ginger's here.
Zen Ginger, what's
Made
up?
a live stream. Yay!
That's
hope
awesome.
y'all have been well. Yes, hope you are well as well. And Ben Stillman has a great question, and I promise I did not pay him to ask it.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's see.
Has probably something to do with one of two species. All right. Ever kept or have been interested in keeping anableps?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
We've never kept anableps, but it's on my bucket list. I want anableps, and I want them in the 50-gallon lowboy. There, I said it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them. I don't know enough about them right now to provide any. I know what they are, but beyond that, never kept them. Don't know their requirements. Don't know anything about them, but would love to do that. They're cool. For those who don't know, anableps are basically
They got
fish
4 eyes,
that are
like me.
at the top of the aquarium all the time. Their eyes stick out the top. It's really kind of cool. But yeah, a very large footprint on the top of the tank would be required for that. And I missed a bunch of super chats and member stuff things. So let me go back because I must have skipped over it. Mr. Eric Mosher, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, you guys are great. Well, thank you. Question: I have a 32.5-gallon tank with seven paradise fish with loads of plants. Any idea for tank mates for them? That's interesting. I'm just curious. And please don't leave another super chat because sometimes people don't realize that you can just leave a regular comment too. I'd be curious how long you've had the 7 paradise fish, because that's a very interesting thing. Sometimes they don't always get along. They kind of behave in some ways.
Like bettas.
Yeah, kind of like bettas.
Similar.
But in terms of tank mates, so I guess the one thing is, I'm going to give you 2 options. Option 1 is if your tank is not heated, and it's typically, it can go upper 60s, low 70s. If that were the case, then I might try things like white clouds. Right, you could do the gold white clouds, you could do standards, you could do long fin or short fin. So you've got some options there, and they're all really pretty. We've got some right here in this tank. You could consider some of the rice fish, which I think would be big enough where they would not get, the paradise fish would not eat them. There's lots of different types of rice fish. You've got platinums. You've got different types of Medaka rice fish. Like I said, we've got the orange. We've got platinums. We've had Java rice fish.
The blue ones that they had, the carry cat.
Yep. That would be an option. There are some Cory cats, particularly the pandas, I think, would probably do good in those. And the pandas could do, by the way, all of those fish I just mentioned would also do well if the tank is heated in the mid to upper 70s. We've kept all those fish at those temperatures as well. Panda Cory cats would be a good option. What else? We did a video. It was a video about the top 10 or the best cool water fish. Check out that video because you would get a lot. Just off the top of my head, I'm not remembering a ton more, but that video we had a much more thorough list of cooler water fish. But those would definitely be some that I think could work. Fire says, did you guys have to become a licensed fish pet store in order to wholesale fish in your fish room? No, because we're not selling out of our house. That's something we would never do. Like we wouldn't have like cars of people coming to our home. What we do is we sell at the swaths. But yes, I mean, you do have to have a business license and go through and get the tax ID numbers and do all of that stuff. So yeah, that stuff is all necessary, but we're not a pet store, right? We don't do that.
Joe wants to know, are there any freshwater frogs that actually live longer than a year in a home aquarium? How long do the African dwarf frogs live?
I think we had them. Well, no, because remember the African dwarf frogs started out in the 29-gallon in the boys' room. We had them with some guppies and stuff. And then we moved them, believe it or not, to the 125. And they lived there at least a year in that tank. So, yeah, they went definitely over a year, but we also don't keep
But
frogs
I want to.
for the most part.
I miss having African dwarf frogs. They're
but
so cute.
They did live longer than a year.
I had ones a long time ago. Do you remember their names? There were 2 of them. Do you remember? I say about all the time. Anybody?
Franklin and Marcel.
No, one would be a very, very obvious name for a frog. So what would that be?
What's up? I don't know.
For a frog, what would be like the most
Kermit?
close?
There's no
What did
other
Miss Piggy call him?
Kermit?
No.
I don't know.
Help me out. Come on.
Green guy? Second floor.
Kermit.
Okay. Second floor says, be sure to add at Primetime Aquatics before your question to help Jason and Joanna see it. Yeah, that definitely helps is when you add the at Primetime Aquatics, because then it highlights it, and then we know there's a question there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, so Bruce got it. Thank you very much. And Cheryl got it. Kermit and Adam and Rocky and Miles and Betta Aquatics and the Zen Ginger and Moby all got Kermit.
Well, that's great.
Thank you very much. And Cornelius was the other one, just so you know, not like Yukon Cornelius.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why.
Joseph says, please try and get to my question on some information on a dirt and sand substrate tank. I don't know what direction to go with. We haven't done it. So we have not done any dirted tanks. Joanna might experiment with it at some point.
I'd like to.
For me, I would mostly stay away from it for my personal tanks because I have too many that I need to be able to have options. And I need to be able to put fish in tanks without worrying about what they're going to do to the substrate. And once you put the dirt in there, yes, you cap it with sand. How to do that? Again, you're asking the wrong person. But the minute I have a fish dig through sand and then start exposing the dirt, you've got a heck of a problem. So that's why I don't do it. Mm-hmm. Not that it's bad. It's actually, it can be a very good thing. It's just I don't do that. All right, hold on.
Oh, David wants to know, did his super chat go through? Did you miss any more?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm slowly scrolling.
Oh, are you? So you're way
Yeah, I'm way up there because,
okay.
And then see, I missed this. Midwest Aquatics, thank you for being a member the last 2 months. Would 7 each of Bosemani, Neon Dwarf, Threadfin Rainbows, and 6 Panda Cories be good together in a 75-gallon planted tank? No. It would be amazing together. Yeah, I like that combo.
I was like,
and
what's
we've
wrong
got
with them?
Bosemani and Neon Dwarfs currently together, and the thread fins will be fine at the full size. They're all fairly active. They'll get along just fine. The Cories will be ignored. That would be, now you could do more. If that's like, if you don't have a bunch of other fish in there now and you're just thinking, okay, this is going to be mostly just a rainbow tank, in a 75-gallon, you could keep the 7 Bosemani, but the dwarf neons, you could probably up that to 10, the thread fins at 10 to 15, unless you've got other, like, oh, I've got some tetras in there and some other things. But that's a great tank. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. No doubt about it. And full of action with the rainbow fish. And they like to eat too. Blake, thank you so much for the super chat. Better option for my 55-gallon that has 6 Congo Tetras, 10 Cardinals, 5 Odos, 2 big Cories, and a Bristlenose, Pleco, Cribs, or Bolivian. So, all right, so the choice is Cribs or Bolivian Rams. Thanks in advance, sand with a few plants, rock work, and driftwood. Well, that's a cool tank. I like that tank. I bet it looks awesome. All right, so here's the thing. There are different types of crebensis. And so you'd want to investigate the different types of crebensis because some of them have more color than others do, right? The one thing to consider is breeding. Crebensis, once they get going, are almost like guppies. They can breed a lot. And so if you've got some plants in there and you've got some things that you don't want to move around and you start getting like, oh, wow, they bred. That was cute. Look at the 30 to 40 babies. Oh, a couple months later, holy cow, they've gotten even better at this. Now there's 50 or 60 more. And what am I going to do with all these fish? And crebensis can be a little bit hard to move. So if you breed them, this is not a fish that you're going to be able to like, oh, I'm going to sell these fish and it's going to pay for things. Probably not. Oh, I'm going to bring them to the pet store and they're going to give me store credit. Most likely they won't. However, with the Bolivian Rams, they don't breed as prolifically. And if they do breed and you start getting into a situation like, oh, I've got 25 Rams, what am I going to do with them? you bring those to a pet store at a decent size and they will buy them from you. And you can sell them because they're going to be in more demand than the cribs. I know maybe you're not thinking about breeding, like I don't really care if they breed or not. And to be fair, your Congo Tetras will pick off a lot of babies. They will. They're fast and they're big enough where they will eat Cribensis babies. They will eat Bolivian ram babies too. But the question is, will they eat all the babies? And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I might lean towards the rams because of the breeding situation. Yeah. Mr. Eric, did I miss the answer on tank mates for paradise fish? Maybe, but I'm also backwards. I'm back away. So we said look at the cool water video, and white clouds, rice fish, pandacori cats could all be really good options. All right, I'm getting back into more current stuff. I just wanted to go back and make sure I didn't miss anything else, because for some reason this thing must have like clogged up on me, stopped, and then just went way to the bottom, and that's why I missed a whole bunch of things.
Kayleen wants to know, will you guys have any, hi Kayleen, will you guys have any blue neon rasboras anytime soon? All my fish have, I've bought at the swaps from you guys, always do so well. Yay!
Yes.
Glad to hear that.
The answer is I hope so. The plan is to have more of those, because like we talked about before. And by the way, for those of you who ordered those fish and we had to cancel those orders because that group, we got them in, they were doing great. They did great at the Quad City, and then something later went wrong, but it was specific to that tank because the few that we had in the other tank were all fine. So we got more, and they are looking fantastic. And so definitely by the end of May, if they continue to look this way, we will absolutely have more of them. So, yeah.
I'm going to take another one. Blissful Joy, I like that name. For a betta tank, are the 3 gallons or so really that bad? I keep reading at least 5 gallons is best, but do they really not do well in a 3? After keeping bettas for a number of years, the tank size keeps going up. For me, minimum that I kind of like to see them in is a 5 gallon, and it's kind of more fun for you as well.
I think when I did the betta care video, I said 2.5 is the minimum.
There was a longer one too, like than threes.
Well, than a cube, yeah. Right. But the 2.5 is a standard 2.5. I mean, it's a standard size. But that's a good point though. Is when I said 2.5, I was thinking the standard 2.5 that does have a little bit more length than certainly a cube would. But like Joanna, I would definitely prefer to see it in a 5 gallon. I think for some people, if you get a betta that's relatively inactive, a 2.5 is like, it's fine. And you'll hear a lot of people say, hey, I actually had to move my betta from a larger tank to a smaller one. And then when you moved to the smaller one, it turned out that they were a lot more confident or a lot more active or more personable. And then but the opposite can be true. I've seen some bettas, even longfin bettas, that are constantly swimming and they're really active, and then put them in a smaller tank like a 2.5-ish or a 3. It's just not enough. They're just spinning circles the whole day. So some of it depends. And bettas have unique personalities, right? It's not like, oh, I got these neons and they were this way, and then the next batch was this way. Most tetras, like, they all behave mostly the same way if you keep them in the same numbers. Bettas can be drastically different. All right, let me scroll on down here. Ripe says, the catfish will most likely be rehoused once he reaches like 4 inches, maybe smaller. I was thinking any barbs or black neons, let me know. Is this going back to the 40? I'm assuming we're going back to the 45 gallon show tank. Barbs so the 2 barbs that I would recommend are cherry barbs and the snakeskin barb. I really like those. A lot of the other barbs, too thin nippy for angels. Black neons, maybe, but when the angels get full grown, there's no guarantee your black neons will remain, but that could take a while. And by the time the black neons are full grown, the angels may just not want to try to eat them, because it's pushing the limits on what an angelfish is going to eat in terms of size.
Are you still getting to like current land?
No, I'm apparently still a little bit behind. I'm all messed up tonight.
Okay.
Let's just admit it. Can we just admit that my comments answering game tonight is a disaster? Can we just, I'll accept that. By the way, this stuff, is flipping awesome. Not sponsored at all. We discovered this on our trip to St. Louis, and you picked up one of these at a gas station. Like, we're not drinking pop or anything like that. Gold Peak unsweetened tea.
It's really good.
And I don't know why, but with 0 calories and no
tea.
artificial sweeteners, right? There is no artificial sweeteners in here.
No, it's tea,
and
which we could make our own. But whatever tea they use.
I don't know what this is, but it's really good.
It's good.
So you should check it out.
That's our drink suggestion for the evening.
I'm really enjoying it lately.
Have you seen Zen Ginger's comment yet?
No, you got to help me out here. I'm failing at my job tonight.
Okay, but I'm going to have to go like this way.
Do what you got to do.
It says 13 months. Woohoo! Also, love the shirt. Joanna, number 47. That's right. Number 47. Go whip. Yeah. Go whip.
Yep.
You know it. Yeah, it's a sweet design. Sweet shirt.
Yep.
Awesome, dude.
It's totally cool, man. Okay, hold on a second here. Rick says a single red spotted severum with geos would be added. A height of a 90-gallon be better than a 75. If I wanted a couple severums, then a 125 would be a wise choice. Yes, I think you're right on. Yeah, the 90 for the severums, that taller tank is just going to look more proportional than a 75 for sure. A little bit harder to clean and maintain, but you don't have to worry about plants because you're probably not going to plant it with the severums because they're going to be like, oh, thanks for the salad. And then, yeah, for a pair, a 125 would be a good choice. And that way you don't have to worry as much if somebody starts breeding or you wind up with 2 males. Maybe they can kind of figure things out in a 6-foot tank. I like where you're going with that. I like your thoughts. All right, this thing is now totally frozen. Oh, here we go. I'm all the way back to the bottom. Roots and Whiskers, thank you so much for the super chat. I can't wait to see you guys at Aqua Shella. Can't wait to see you too. Looking forward to it. It's coming up in less than a month. It's hard to believe that it's coming up so fast. Yes, it is crazy. Max says, I have 10 5-bar barbs in my angels. Never seen any nipping. Good. That's cool. Another potential option then. Melanie says that we make a great team. Oh, thank you.
I was thinking like with you because,
Oh, yeah, man.
Like a group, like a trio of, I wouldn't say, aquascapers. We'll just lump you in there.
No, you don't lump me in with aquascapers. That does a disservice to everybody who's actually a real aquascaper because at that point you might as well just call everybody an aquascaper.
Be like, you could be the supervisor. You could be like, pile them. Nope, pile of rocks higher.
Yeah, I could definitely make things worse. Right? Like, you're going to want to take advice from me and my thoughts. You're doing it wrong. Put the piece of wood sideways over there and be like, this is the worst aquascape I've ever created, thanks to him. Robert says, have you considered running pothos from tank to tank around the fish room? Why not? Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
You've got it over several tanks.
Pothos for me is such a weird thing because in some tanks it will do fine, it will grow, and it will do all the things it's supposed to do. And then I try it in other tanks, it doesn't do anything. Like it just dies. And I'm like, why did that happen? Yeah. And they've all got sufficient amount of nitrate. Part of it too is the light situation. I don't have any suspended lights, and that would probably work a little bit better than just the lights resting so close to the lids. But I have had pothos in a couple tanks. One time the 40 breeder, where the silver tips are now, the pothos grew up the stand and then started getting light from the tank above, which was pretty cool. And then in the 75, where we currently have the goldfish, that pothos went crazy at one time, grew up the side, up the top 75, then started shooting along the wall to the 125 across from it, which I thought was pretty cool. But then as soon as it does that, it just doesn't get enough light, and then it kind of dies back, which is sad. It's very sad.
From her 209, what would you stock in a 120-gallon tank?
Let's just,
I know what I would do.
So is this a 4-foot 120 or is it a 6-foot 120?
It's it says 8 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot.
Oh my gosh, that's insanely awesome.
I know what I would do.
Holy cow, that changes everything. So it's only a foot tall, so it's just a couple inches taller than a low boy. So you got to kind of keep that in mind, right? I think it's tall enough to run some type of geophagus, like a smaller geophagus, like a geophagus tapajos, would probably be my centerpiece in a tank like that. And then I don't know why I want to do this, but for that tank, I think it'd be really cool to have like 30 hatchet fish kind of chilling at the top. They'd have a nice, run of it back and forth. So like the marble hatchets. And then I want something long and I want something fast. in a tank like that. So, I mean, if you could find the Volcano Tetras, that'd be like perfect. Could you imagine them in an 8-foot tank? Holy cow, they'd be insane. But I like the brilliant green rasbora. That's more of a torpedo-shaped fish. Oh, what about the roseline shark? That'd be pretty sweet too.
What about Danios?
No, absolutely not. No. Rainbow fish would be really cool in a tank like that.
Heck yeah, it would be.
Yeah, so you've got a ton of options. You got anything?
Green neons.
Oh my gosh. Well, then you can't have
like
any of the
a
cool
huge
fish
school.
I just mentioned.
That would be amazing. Am I right? And I've seen a bunch of green hearts already in the stream.
I've seen a few too. I'm
Thanks,
not going to
everybody.
lie.
Thank you.
I've seen one or two.
Word to the green neon.
Wow. There's a group here. I'm well aware of that. And
my
I'm
people.
out of the circle.
They're my people.
Mac, thank you so much for becoming a prime timer, primate, prime time partner. Appreciate that. Kevin. It's really nice of you. Gifted 5 Primetime Aquatics memberships, and that's Tracy
so nice,
and Ben
Kevin.
and Adam and Kayleen. Wow, that's really cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on, where's? Oh, and then John. Thank you so much, Kevin, for doing that. That's really cool.
That's sweet.
Very generous. Thank
you. Yeah, and I think Kevin, weren't you asking about the next time we're going to do a small scape live stream?
Oh.
Darn it, we're busy Saturday.
Yeah, well, the next couple.
Dumb.
So now now the summer starts kicking in. And there's going to be some point, well, there's going to be 2 in May that we may have to miss. Because we won't.
For small
I think
scape?
what we're going to do, for this.
Miss one of these?
Yeah, because Aqua Shella.
Oh.
And then the week before that, I think we have something scheduled. So I think what we're going to do on those Wednesdays, not that it's going to take the place, because it's not.
Do something fun?
Yeah, we'll try to release some kind of a cool video, I think, for those Wednesdays. And then once that passes, then I think we're good for most of the rest of the summer. But May gets a little shaky. The reason I mention that is because the Saturdays at this point then get out of hand crazy. And through the end of May for sure, because one of the things that happened was our youngest son, Eli, decided to play volleyball for the first time in his life in high school. And he was in gym class, and his gym teacher was the varsity volleyball coach, and apparently he was doing good volleyball things for a kid who's never touched a volleyball a day in his life and didn't know the rules. And he was asked to try out for the volleyball team like 5 days before the tryouts. So it was a crash course, and here's the rules, and here's how you play volleyball.
And this is what you do.
When you go to the tryouts, you actually do what you're supposed to do. Wound up making the A team as a middle, which he's, believe it or not, I mean, some of you have met me, you're like, well, how did this happen? He's going on 6'1". Her side of the family is really tall. My side more or less looks like a family of hobbits. But but yeah,
no.
They both the boys are 6 foot plus, and that's all because of her side of the family. So anyway, the point of all that story was that they always have games on Saturdays. So Saturday mornings right now are kind of booked. But as soon as that ends, and hopefully Saturday's free.
Yeah, because Saturday mornings are fun.
Yeah,
that's my time.
I would like to. I think we both agree. It would be nice to be able to do at least one Saturday live stream a month.
Yes, and especially, I'm going to start warning y'all. I haven't talked about it, but whenever that is out in the world sometime, hopefully this year, if I hit 20K, there's going to be some stuff going on. I'm just saying.
Some stuff, huh?
There's going to be some stuff. I'm already started my official preparations.
For the stuff. I can't wait to hear what that stuff is going to be.
And things.
Second floor, been a member for 22 months. Thank you. Just wanted to give you both a hug. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and experience with us. By the way, are you driving or flying to Dallas? We're driving away. We like it. We prefer to drive. People think we're crazy.
Giant ball of twine.
Going from Chicago area to Dallas. And
why don't we stop at some of the weird...
Okay.
Can we?
Like
Griswold's?
Yeah, like the world's
largest ball of twine?
Yeah. Or the house that was made of mud or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we have to stop at the mud house this time. But yeah, we really like it. So drive to Dallas. Going to have to fly to Daytona because that's right in the middle of my semester. And I don't think...
Yeah, that's dumb.
I have the time in between classes to be able to drive to Daytona, which whatever. We'll fly on down. It'll be great. This chat, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
it's jumping.
It is
all over the place.
It's fine for a while, but then like big chunks,
like skipping
and
everything.
I can't even like get up.
It's skipping all over the place tonight. Like somehow YouTube is really the chat is like, hey man, watch this. Yeah.
Oh, we got from Steve. We've got hello from St. Louis.
What's up? What's up?
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
St. Louis.
I love St. Louis.
Pretty cool. Tabitha says, what is your favorite fish? Well, you know hers, the green neon.
Don't you talk about my green neons with that attitude.
The green neon. Uh-oh. The green neon crew is going to be like, bam, green hearts. I just
right?
earned that one. Sorry.
And second favorite? Well, I always said the Romy nose rasbora, but anableps are really, it's either or. So anyways,
okay.
I'm just going to jump ship. Go ahead.
For the most part, if I had to pick one,
I know what your favorite is.
Geophagus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different
Classic
types.
choice.
There's so many different types.
Wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
But
Well, just like this, though. This is a big giant SB.
He's our flagfish. Flag.
What?
He's our...
The geophagus is a flagfish? What are you even saying?
What do you call that? It's the... Oh my gosh.
It's our shirt thingy.
Yeah, I know, but our flagship.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Flagship fish.
Ben says, any tips on keeping valves alive? Mine won't stay. Other plants do fine.
Oh,
yes.
Don't plant it so deep.
Don't plant it at all at first.
Yeah.
So we learned that. We learned that from some of the green water members. I remember Mike Jam taught us that trick because we were having a problem where our jungle valve was always dying. He's like, try floating it float the valve until it starts producing runners, and then you just stick the runners into the substrate, and then it'll root itself and start sending out more. So that for us was a game changer, and all of a sudden we've got crazy amounts of valve in all of our tanks once we started doing that. So try it. Maybe it will work for you too. Holy cow, everything just jumped again. What is seriously up with this situation going on here? Kevin, thank you so much for the super chat. I have both my green neons and Volcano Tetras together. That's the best of both worlds. That fish is also, if I had to pick a number 2 right now, and there's a chance it could change, but it would certainly be in the top 3.
Stunning.
Yeah, it's
stunning little dudes.
Really an interesting fish.
Yeah, and you've got quite a number of them, Kevin.
Lucas, thank you for being a member the last 2 months. You're stuck with me. I like it. Very cool. Glad you're here. Hip hop, what's going on? Had to move my betta and pork chop rasbora tank. Surprise inspection. Think they'll be okay for 16 hours with no filter or real water movement. The betta will be fine. The pork chop rasboras, I don't know, can you do like an air stone or something? Or if you got a sponge filter or something in there, I mean, yeah, most likely if it's a big enough body of water, it should be okay. But I was going to say run some type of like a fan over, but then you got to be careful because a fan could cool the water, especially if it's a small amount. And I'm not saying like run the fan into the water. We don't want to like electrocute anything, but just to keep water moving, something to keep water moving would be beneficial, but mostly it'll probably be okay. Okay, let me see here. We'll do a couple more. Holy cow, man. This time just went crazy flyby.
Oh, man. Already?
John says, hey, guys, what would be an ideal number of angels in a 40 breeder? Also have a juvenile red-tailed shark and a Synodontis in the tank. So 40 breeder, most likely a pair, because if you wind up with a third angel that is kind of pushed out of the group, which it doesn't happen right away. So you've got some time for this. So if you had 4 to 6 in there, probably for the most part, if you got them quarter sized, they're going to be okay for a while, but know that you'll most likely have to move any non-pair angels. And most likely a 40 breeder is only going to support a single pair of angels in the tank. Be very careful with that red-tailed shark, especially with angelfish, because red-tailed sharks, and it doesn't happen right away. When they're small, they tend to be far less aggressive, but as they get larger, like the one that we had in our 75-gallon, people are shocked when they saw, like especially in real life, how large that fish was. It was about 7 inches, and that thing, for the most part, ruled that tank, with the exception of the very large green Severum, which was a tank boss. The only other fish that it didn't interact with was we had a Syncrosis birdmori loach that was even more. He was a butt. I mean, he was definitely like, hey, I'm not taking stuff from you, man. We'll go. But other than that, that red-tailed shark bullied most of my medium-sized South and Central American cichlids. Any type of tetra I put in there, The gouramis, and gouramis are no joke either, like the opalines, blues, and golds. It was like, yeah, whatever, dude, we'll go. I've seen it pick on lots of different types of fish. So just be really careful with that one. Just keep an eye on it, right? And just make sure that things don't happen later. All right, everybody. I think we're going to have to call it a night because this is the longest live stream we've done in a while. We're like 4 minutes over the thing.
That's crazy.
But man, oh man, you all had great questions tonight. And if we didn't get to them, sorry. Like I said, I think it's not obvious when you're looking at it here from a viewer perspective, but we'll get 1,000, 1,100 comments over the course of 90 minutes, so it's really hard to see them all. And then this thing is jumping around everywhere, so we do try our best. And if we didn't get to your question, definitely come back next Wednesday. Try to answer. We'll try to ask it again, and we will try as hard as we can to get as many questions answered as we can. But thank you to all the moderators for hanging out, just all the people here being awesome, super chats and new members and all that great stuff.
Lurkers, creepers. Yep. Rewatchers.
We will see you. We'll be back same time, same place next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's the time we are always here. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Now I got to hit all the buttons.